The squeak of his mop echoed in the quiet corporate hallway, but no one noticed him. No one ever did. Ben Carter, a single dad in his late 30s, worked nights as a janitor for one of the biggest tech companies in Chicago. His uniform was faded, his hands rough, his back sore. But each time he thought about quitting, he thought about Emily, his 8-year-old daughter waiting for him back home, asleep with her tiny arms wrapped around his old sweatshirt. Tonight, however, was different. As Ben pushed his mop bucket past the gleaming glass doors of the executive conference room, he overheard laughter. Sharp, mocking laughter. "Come on, man, it's just a janitor. He probably can't even spell his own name," one young associate sneered. The group of well-dressed employees crowded around the room turned to look at Ben. The oldest of them, a junior manager named Kyle, smirked and held up a document. "Hey, janitor," Kyle called out. "Wanna make $100,000? Translate this document for me and my salary's yours for the month. Deal?" The others roared with laughter. Ben froze. His cheeks burned. He needed the money more than he could ever say. Emily's school tuition was overdue, the fridge was nearly empty, but this? This was just another cruel game. He walked in anyway. "Hand it over," he said simply, his voice calm. More laughter. Kyle shoved the paper at him, a dense, 2-page technical document written in flawless Mandarin Chinese. Ben studied it for a long moment, his eyes scanning back and forth. The room fell quiet. And then, he spoke. In perfect Mandarin, Ben began translating aloud. Not just word for word, but with nuance, with clarity, even correcting a typo halfway through. His tone was confident, his pronunciation flawless. The young associate stared, their jaws slack. When he finished, he looked at Kyle and said evenly, in English, "It says the shipment was delayed due to customs and the new prototype won't arrive until next quarter. Anything else you need help with?" No one said a word. Finally, Kyle stammered, "W8, how? You're just a janitor?" Ben finished for him, a faint smile tugging at his lips. "I was a language professor back in Beijing before my wife passed," he said quietly. "We moved here for her treatment, but," his eyes softened. "After she died, I had no one to watch my daughter while I taught. So, I took this job at night to pay the bills and still be home when she wakes up." The group shifted uncomfortably. The arrogance in the room deflated like a punctured balloon. One of the younger employees whispered, "I'm sorry, sir." Ben nodded once, then handed the document back. "Keep your salary. Spend it on learning some humility." And with that, he left. Later that week, Ben came home to find a letter in his mailbox. Inside was a formal offer of full-time employment, not as a janitor, but as a cultural consultant for the company, with a salary more than he'd ever dared dream of. At the bottom, a handwritten note read, "Thank you for teaching us something more valuable than language. You reminded us of what truly matters." Ben folded the letter and looked at Emily playing in the yard. She ran up to him, throwing her arms around his neck. "Daddy," she said with a grin, "you look happy." He held her close, his eyes misty. "I am, sweetheart. I am." That night, as he tucked Emily into bed, he whispered to her, "Always remember, Em. People will laugh at you sometimes. But never forget who you are, and never stop being kind. Kindness always comes back to you." And in that quiet room, a janitor-turned-hero sat by his daughter's side, his heart full of hope. Because sometimes, the smallest acts, a quiet dignity, a refusal to hate, can change everything. The world underestimates quiet hearts. But kindness and self-respect always speak louder than cruelty, and often, they change lives.